This is a short demonstration of KSOC cluster onboarding. I've just created a new EKS cluster called Staging in US West 2 that KSOC has auto-discovered. You can see the cluster in this list and that it is unprotected. Here it is. In order to assess the security of the cluster, I need to install KSOC in the cluster. If I click on the Connect Cluster button in the top right, I can download a YAML file to assist with the Helm install. The only prerequisite for installing KSOC is Cert Manager. In this cluster, Cert Manager is already installed, which I can see here. By default, a secret is created as part of our Helm chart, which we use to securely connect to KSOC. However, it's highly recommended that this secret be created outside of the Helm installation, and we have documentation for this, and is referenced in the Helm values. For this demo, our values file will contain our access and secret key. We'll show you an example of that without the actual keys here. There you go. So we're going to go ahead and install this to show how simple and quick the installation is into the cluster. We'll give that a moment. Once it's done, we'll validate its install by checking that the pods in the new KSOC namespace are running. They're initializing. So let's give that a moment. Should just be a few seconds here. They're coming online. There they go. We're all up and running. So we'll go back to our cluster screen and refresh. If it hasn't, it should change from gray to green and probably should pop up into the top of the list in just a moment. If it hasn't already, there it is. We're now installed and we'll be able to provide a very quick security assessment of the cluster. We can now see that we get an immediate security assessment of all workloads and images. So let's go ahead and jump over to the assessment of the workloads for our new cluster staging. We can see all the misconfigurations and the findings here, particularly for this boutique microservices e-commerce app. We see a lot of those here. We also see under Container Insights, here we go, all the different images in the new cluster or existing clusters that are already in this account, and all the CVEs with those. So we're gathering all of this in real time. As soon as it's installed, we do an assessment. We grab CVEs for all the existing images, SBOMs, RBAC permissions, runtime information. All that's gathered in real time. All these are necessary, but noisy, continuous real-time feeds of security data and are not typically the primary focus of the product, but it is necessary to collect all that information in real time through continuous feeds, not via polling every few hours or once a day. Threat vectors, however, provide contextual prioritization of issues from the continuous feeds. They may exist in the cluster that combine combinations of workloads, misconfigurations, image CVEs, RBAC permissions, and public accessibility and runtime alerts. So let's take a look at the threat vectors that have been generated for this new cluster immediately after it was rolled out. So we have multiple namespaces. Actually, let's take a look at that real quick. In this new cluster, staging, 78 workloads, 2 nodes. So of all those, we also have for misconfigurations, as an example, just within that one cluster, 13 pages, 10 each, so close to 130 misconfigurations. We have dozens of CVEs or images with CVEs, many RBAC binding subjects, different permissions, but we're not bothering you with all of that, although we're collecting it. It's there to look at. The threat vectors that are the focus here. The focus of this walkthrough is to illustrate the easy installation and immediate feedback. In this case, the quick prioritization of issues from that large amount of findings CVEs in the images, runtime information, although we don't have runtime in here because we just installed this. But this is all condensed down to what is most important. In this case, a combination of unrestricted access, RBAC misconfiguration or over permissioned RBAC in an exposed role, a workload that's exposed publicly. A critical CVE, I have actually a few of them in that cluster, but it happens to have public exposure. And a container running as root. I have multiple of those, but this one here happens to be exposed. So there will be a later deep dive into threat vectors. The main focus again of this was the easy installation of KSOC and the immediate feedback that it provides after installation. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, reach out to KSOC.